Kurupt. He killed two of his bodyguards. They're trying to kill him. Killed his bodyguards. So they blamed it on me because he made a song about me. Even though nobody really heard the song. Whack, you know, being that he made a song about me, I had to be the one doing it. I'm not pissed off.
DM. Only X I know's exhibit or RBX.
Was you and X issue actually over her?
Totally.
Oh, so X was messing with her when y'all was together?
What was it like being around DMX?
DMX was dangerous, man. When you around him, he's like, you don't know what's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? Very unpredictable.
Hip-hop beefs almost never end clean, and that's exactly what went down between DMX and Kurupt. This one got real messy real fast. Kurupt learned the hard way that crossing DMX wasn't a smart move.
When you're grown, you got to put away childish things. You know, I had an issue with DMX.
Right.
And
about some serious
Now, their feud might not have been as famous as other rap clashes, but don't get it twisted. It got just as wild. Things spiraled so bad that Kurupt ended up being the target of a hit, and it nearly cost him his life. Two of his bodyguards were caught in the chaos, and the whole crew barely made it out alive. Then the streets started buzzing with rumors that DMX might have been the one behind it. And honestly, people believed it.
What was it like being around DMX?
DMX was dangerous, man. Like when you around him, he's like, you don't know what's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? Very unpredictable.
DMX had a reputation that made everyone nervous. He was a real lone wolf. He didn't roll with gangs, didn't care for the Crips or the Bloods, and definitely wasn't scared to say it out loud. Kurupt, on the other hand, was a proud Crip, and that made him an easy target for X's wrath. Kurupt needed a whole squad just to stand his crown, but DMX, he didn't need anyone backing him up. He hounded his beefs personally and made sure Kurupt felt the heat. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's take it all the way back to where it started. Back in the early 1990s, DMX was running the underground scene in New York. Nobody could touch him. Meanwhile, out on the West Coast, Kurupt was just beginning to carve out his own lane. In 1992, when he was only 19, Kurupt and his close friend Daz Dillinger signed the powerhouse label Death Row Records. The two formed the Dog Pound, Kurupt repping the Rolling 60s Crips, and Daz holding it down for the Rolling 20s Crips out of Long Beach. Before long, the Dog Pound grew into a bigger unit known as the Dog Pound Gangsta Clique, or DPGC, bringing in legends like Snoop Dogg, Nate Dogg, and RBX. Their rise was fast and loud. They made their first big splash with features on Dr. Dre's classic 1992 album, The Chronic. Then in 1993, they doubled down by playing a major role in Snoop Dogg's iconic debut, Dog Style. Kurupt and Daz showed up on multiple tracks and skits, locking in their place as key players in Death Row's golden era. By 1994, the Dog Pound was ready to take center stage and prove they weren't just Dr. Dre's proteges, they were stars. They kicked off their come up with the fiery single, What Would You Do?, the lead track from their debut album, Dog Food. The record went crazy, fans loved it, and it even snagged a Grammy nomination in 1996 for Best Rap Performance by a Duo or Group.
Ever heard of a slaughter? I oughta start dipping, sipping on that ST gets me to tripping. I don't slip.
When Dog Food finally dropped on October 31st, 1995, it was a Halloween takeover. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, moving over 270,000 copies in its first week. That was huge. The success locked the Dog Pound in as one of the toughest duos in hip-hop, earning them major respect across both coasts. By 1996, Kurupt's personal life was heating up too. He started dating Brooklyn rap star Foxy Brown, and by the next year, they were officially engaged. It was that hip-hop power couple energy, until things started to get complicated. Meanwhile, on the East Coast, DMX was exploding into superstardom. After inking his deal with Def Jam, he dropped his gritty debut single, Get At Me Dog, in February 1998, and it hit hard. The track climbed to number 39 on the Billboard charts, proving DMX was coming for the throne.
And you slip. I'm on some bullshit that's got me jacking niggas flipping. Let my man in them stay pretty.
But he wasn't done. Later that same year, he released It's Dark and Hell Is Hot, an instant classic that flipped the entire rap game upside down. X became one of the biggest names in hip-hop overnight, but with that fame came drama. By mid-1998, whispers started spreading that DMX was getting a little too close to Foxy Brown, Kurupt's fiancé. According to Foxy, Rough Riders member Eve was the one who dropped the news to Kurupt, telling them something was going on between her and X. That set off a whole storm. Foxy and Eve fell out, with Foxy swearing nothing serious happened and claiming DMX just had a crush on her. She said Eve was just stirring the pot and making things look worse than they really were.
I don't like Eve. Like, I don't like her. It has nothing to do with music. It's something that she did that was very disrespectful.
The timing of those rumors couldn't have been the worst. Both Foxy Brown and DMX were signed to Def Jam, and that summer, they were touring together on the Survival of the Illest tour. You can imagine how the gossip spread like wildfire. Fans and insiders were watching their every move. Then in December 1998, DMX dropped his second album, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, and it was another instant classic. But one track in particular, Bring Your Whole Crew, had people talking non-stop. The song was raw, violent, and full of lines that sounded way too personal. X rapped about being out for blood and mentioned Crips going to war, something that hit close to home since Kurupt was a proud Crip himself. And that wasn't all. In the same song, DMX threw out some brutal lines, asking how much trash somebody could talk with his lips on the floor, calling someone fake, and even mentioning a pit.
So I scratch you, so I snatch up your face, fake ass.
Fans quickly put two and two together. Many believe he was taking shots at Kurupt, tying the fake pit line to the Dog Pound's name and mocking Kurupt as a wannabe tough guy. DMX even talked about wanting to choke someone, which had people convinced it was a straight-up warning for Kurupt to back off before things got deadly.
I'm about to find out how much gut you got before I spill them. Somebody come and get this before I kill him.
Lines like, about to find out how much you got, somebody come and get this, only added fuel to the rumors. While DMX never confirmed the diss, the timing and context made it almost impossible not to connect the dots. By 1999, things were boiling over. Word got back to Kurupt that DMX had been seen hanging out with Foxy Brown behind his back, and that's when the tension exploded. Then on January 26, 1999, Foxy dropped her second album, China Doll, and fans couldn't believe what they heard. The album featured a track called Dog and a Fox with none other than DMX himself. That collab confirmed what many had already suspected. Foxy and X were definitely spending time together, but for Kurupt, that track felt like a slap in the face. According to him, the song's concept was originally supposed to be a duet with him and Foxy. If that was true, this wasn't just a rumor, it was straight up betrayal.
D M only X I know's exhibit a RBX X trying to snatch my you can have a bit just to
While that track was shaking up the industry, Kurupt was deep in the studio working on his second album, Da Streets Is a Mother. He wasn't about to let anyone play with his name, so he decided to strike back hard. Kurupt recorded a track called Calling Out Names, and it was pure fire. He didn't hold back, taking aim at multiple rappers, including DMX, 50 Cent, and Ja Rule. The song leaked months before the official album dropped, and the moment it hit the streets, it caused chaos. The very first verse had everyone talking, and from that point on, there was no turning back. Kurupt didn't just throw shade, he went straight for DMX's throat on Calling Out Names. He kicked the track off by calling him Motherfingin' D, Motherfingin' M, then declared that the only X he recognized was either Exhibit or RBX. The disrespect was wild. He accused DMX of trying to steal his girl, Foxy Brown, but then shrugged it off, saying DMX could keep her, calling both of them 2Bs getting rich. That line hit like a punch. Kurupt didn't stop there. He fired off a threat, warning DMX that if he ever dared to set foot on the West Coast, he'd get stripped and stomped out, all over a woman. It was raw, ruthless, and personal. Then to twist the knife a little more, Kurupt bragged that he'd already moved on to a new woman, taking another jab at Foxy and the messy drama surrounded her name. In the second verse, Kurupt switched targets and aimed straight at Rough Riders. He made it crystal clear that he didn't respect anyone in that crew except for Eve. That shout out to Eve seemed to back up what Foxy had claimed earlier, that Eve was the one who told Kurupt about her and DMX's alleged situation. Then he hit even harder, spitting, "Fuck Rough Riders, fuck the firm, and fuck Belly."
calling out names. How the Belly.
Those lines were loaded with meaning. The Firm was Foxy's rap group led by Nas, while Belly was the 1998 cult classic movie starring both DMX and Nas. Kurupt's words were just random shots. They were direct hits aimed at everyone tied to that whole triangular drama. Nas even got dragged into it after he publicly praised DMX and Foxy's chemistry in an XXL interview, saying Foxy should have been with someone from New York. That only made things messier. To top it all off, Kurupt ended the track by mocking DMX's signature "Get at me, dog" line, imitating X's delivery in a sarcastic, taunting way that fans instantly recognized. And on the original version of the track, he didn't even wait till the end. He mocked DMX right at the start. That was pure disrespect on wax. But the tension didn't stay on records for long. Real life got dark fast. On October 17th, 1999, around 11:40 p.m., Kurupt was at Echo Sound Studios in Los Angeles, working late on his album, The Streets Is a Mother. Out of nowhere, gunfire erupted outside the studio. The attack left his bodyguard, Dwayne Dupree, dead after being shot multiple times in the chest. Two other rappers, Willard Givens and Jevon Jones, were also hit, suffering gunshot wounds to the leg and foot. The whole scene was chaos. Right after the shooting, rumors exploded through the hip-hop world that DMX might have been involved, especially since the timing lined up so closely with Kurupt's diss track. People thought it was payback.
But DMX's team moved fast to shut the talk down. A spokesperson released a statement saying DMX is in Miami recording his album. It's unfortunate that something like this happened, but he has no knowledge of it. I just got off the phone with him. DMX himself also denied having anything to do with the shooting, saying he wasn't even in LA when it went down.
Kurupt, he killed two of his bodyguards. They're trying to kill him. Killed his bodyguards. So they blamed it on me because he made a song about me. Even though nobody really heard the song. Whack, you know, being that he made a song about me, I had to be the one doing it. I'm not pissed off at a whack.
Still, even with his denials, the whispers didn't stop. The streets kept talking, and the tension between both camps hung heavy for years, leaving everyone wondering if that feud had gone from lyrical to lethal. Given DMX's wild rap and explosive temper, nobody was shocked when Kurupt refused to back down. Just a month later, on November 16, 1999, he dropped his long-awaited album, The Streets Is a Mother. As expected, the album included his infamous diss track calling out names, still packed with every savage shot aimed at DMX. But Kurupt wasn't done yet. He took the petty dits to another level. On another track called Who Ride With Us, he turned the shade up even higher. At the end of the song, there's a hilarious skit where Kurupt flips through fake radio stations, and one of them features a parody of DMX, complete with someone imitating X's growling voice.
Bleed, blood. Who I am, who I be, till I die. That's my word.
It was straight up mockery, and fans couldn't believe he went that far. But DMX wasn't the type to let anyone clown him without striking back. So when December 21st, 1999 rolled around, he unleashed his response in the biggest way possible. He dropped his third studio album, and then there was X, and it included one of the most iconic anthems of all time, Party Up, Up in Here. Most people remember Party Up as a club banger, but if you really listen close, those lyrics sound like a calculated diss aimed right at Kurupt. From the very first line, y'all gonna make me lose my mind up in here, DMX set the tone. He was fed up and ready for war. He called out cowards, warned people they could get done dumb quick, and fans immediately connected it to the drama with Kurupt and his crew.
Be quick, alright? Oh, your man's have been in jail before. Get all the motherfuckers you run with, get done with. They go to one over some. That's so.
Some even believe the line about guns clipping and fights breaking out over something small was a chilling reference to the Echo Studio shooting just months earlier. The timing made it all too suspicious. Then came verse 2, where DMX really turned personal. He took aim at fake rappers, saying they were nothing but characters and not even good actors, a jab that fans instantly linked to Kurupt. He called someone whack and twisted, then dragged personal lives into it by saying, your girl's not even a good actress, which sounded like a direct slap at Foxy Brown.
Even good actors, what's gonna be the outcome? Let's add up all the factors. You whack, you twisted, your girl's a.
The tension was undeniable. DMX also vented about men fighting over women who didn't belong to him, clearly referencing the whole Kurupt and Foxy situation that had everyone talking. It wasn't just a diss, it was a statement. He was done with the drama and ready to bury his rivals in bars. By the time the third verse hit, DMX had gone full beast mode. He warned, you keep running your mouth, you gonna blow your lung out, and hinted at making someone disappear. The aggression was off the charts, and those lines only fueled more rumors that he might have been connected to the Echo Studio shooting, even though nothing was ever proven.
I'ma blow his lung out. Listen, your is about to be missing. You know who gon' find you? Some old man fishing.
What made Party Up such a powerful comeback wasn't just the disrespect. It was how huge the song became. The track exploded worldwide, blasting from every club, every radio station, and showing up in movies everywhere. It was one of DMX's biggest hits ever, turning a diss record into a chart-topping anthem. For Kurupt, hearing DMX clown him on a song that was dominating the entire planet must have stung bad. It was like DMX had flipped the beef into a massive victory lap. With one record, he proved he didn't need to keep trading disses. He could just make a hit so big it buried the competition for him. Sometimes it only takes one massive hit to silence the noise, and Party Up did exactly that. But even with all that success, the whispers around DMX never fully died down. He kept denying any connection to the Echo Studio shooting, yet people couldn't help but question it. His fierce, unpredictable personality made folks wonder if he was truly capable of something that extreme. DMX had always been a wild card, a man who lived on the edge and didn't fear much of anything. And honestly, that wasn't new for him. DMX had been bold since he was a kid. One story from his teenage years proved just how fearless and reckless he could be. At just 15 years old, DMX didn't just get in trouble. He escaped from prison. That's right, while most teens were stressing about school and homework, X was breaking out of lockup like it was a movie scene. His run-ins with the law started early. Back in 1986, a young DMX got caught stealing a dog from a junkyard. Yeah, a dog. It sounds wild, but for him, it was about survival on the rough streets of Yonkers. That stunt landed him in the juvenile unit of Woodfield Prison in Valhalla, New York, where he spent a few months locked up. But the time inside didn't slow him down, it just hardened him. Later that same year, he got caught up again, this time for something more serious, and ended up sentenced to 2 years at the Industry Institution, a juvenile facility way upstate. That's where things took a crazy turn. Inside, DMX met another teen inmate named Bobby, a kid from a well-off family upstate whose life couldn't have been more different from X's rough background. Bobby had money and privilege. DMX had grit and hunger. But despite their differences, they clicked instantly. The two would talk for hours about life, music, and the streets, and soon those talks turned into plotting something wild, an escape. The plan was straight out of a movie, simple but risky. They figured they could sneak out through a window in the recreation room and make a run for it across the open yard. The place didn't even have full fencing around that area, since it was out in the middle of nowhere. The guards probably thought nobody would be crazy enough to escape because there was nothing nearby, just miles of woods and cold air.
But DMX and Bobby didn't care about any of that. They were young, desperate, and fearless. To them, anything was better than staying locked up behind bars. That wild determination would follow DMX for the rest of his life, always taking chances, always ready to break free, no matter the cost. They were desperate to break free, and when the moment finally came, DMX and Bobby went for it. They pulled off their daring escape, slipping through that window and sprinting into the night like they had nothing to lose. Against all odds, DMX actually made it all the way back home, but his victory didn't last long. When his mother found out what he had done, she wasn't having it, not for a second. She told him straight up that he needed to turn himself in and finish his time. She believed facing the consequences was the only way he'd ever grow into a man. Even though he didn't want to, DMX respected his mom enough to listen. Reluctantly, he gave himself up and ended up at the McCormick Juvenile Detention Center in Brookdale, New York, where he served out the rest of his sentence. But freedom didn't mean peace for DMX. It was just the beginning of a long, rocky road. By 1988, he found himself locked up again, this time for a carjacking charge. His time in bars wasn't any smoother either. DMX's temper and tough attitude got him into constant trouble. At one point, he was even transferred to a higher security facility after he tried to shake down another inmate for drugs. That's how intense he was even back then. Eventually, in the summer of 1988, DMX got released, but his time out didn't last. He was caught in that same brutal cycle of crime, pain, and incarceration. The streets had a grip on him that was hard to break. Over the years, DMX would end up going in and out of prison around 30 times. That's how deep the struggle ran. His wild behavior and legal troubles weren't just random. They were rooted in a chaotic childhood and the harsh world he grew up in. Yonkers wasn't a safe place for a kid trying to survive. It was gritty, dangerous, and unpredictable. Crime, gangs, and violence were everywhere. And for someone like DMX, every day felt like a fight to stay alive. Those tough streets shaped who he became. The fire, the pain, and that fearless attitude that later defined his music all came straight out of that struggle.
Officer Montero, a veteran of the Yonkers Police Department, has seen it all. And when it came to kids like DMX, he knew exactly how rough the streets really were. He explained that in Yonkers, gangs had a way of preying on the most vulnerable, the kids who were already struggling at home, wearing the same beat-up clothes, clearly broke and just trying to survive. Those were the easy targets. According to Montero, the gangs would lure these teens in with promises of fast money, new sneakers, or fresh clothes. To a kid living with nothing, that kind of offer sounded too good to be true, and it was. Once they accepted, they were stuck. The gang made sure they owed them, forcing them into a life of crime to pay off their so-called debts. Some were made to act as lookouts, runners, or even muscle. From that moment, getting out wasn't an option anymore. Montero recalled one scene that never left his mind. He and another officer came across a man getting brutally beaten outside a small bodega on New South Main Street. The attack was vicious, fists flying, blood on the pavement. They broke up the fight, pulled the guys apart, and when they asked the victim if he wanted to press charges, he shook his head no. Montero said he wasn't shocked at all. This kind of thing happened all the time. Those beatings weren't just random violence, they were part of gang initiation rituals. In that particular case, the victim was being jumped into Chicano Nation, one of the most feared Mexican street gangs in Yonkers. And they weren't the only ones. At the time, the city had around 30 different gangs operating, each one controlling different blocks, different hustles, and tied to hundreds of crimes. In just 1 year, police linked over 360 incidents directly to gang activity. The streets were a battlefield, and for kids like DMX, who grew up in the middle of it, staying out of trouble was almost impossible. Every corner had danger, every friend could turn into an enemy, and every mistake could cost you your life. Fast forward to January 17, 2000. A whole different world from Yonkers. DMX was now standing under bright lights at the American Music Awards, held at the legendary Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles. Dressed sharp, full of confidence, he had officially made it to the top. Reporters crowded around him in the press room, throwing questions his way about fame, music, and of course, his never-ending controversies. Then came the big one. Someone asked about the supposed beef between him and Kurupt, the one everyone thought was still simmering beneath the surface. DMX didn't flinch. He just shut it down cool and calm. He told him straight there wasn't any problem between him and Kurupt. No tension, no drama, no bad blood.
2 questions. How are you dealing with the conflict with Kurupt?
All right. First of all, there is no conflict with Kurupt. You know, so I'm not dealing with any.
It was the first time in years he publicly dismissed the feud, and his answer surprised everyone. After all the chaos, diss tracks, his street talk, DMX seemed ready to let it all go, or at least that's what he wanted the world to believe. It was definitely a shocking answer from DMX. After all, Party Up had plenty of lyrics that fans swore were aimed directly at Kurupt, and the tension between the two had been a hot topic in the industry for years. So when X brushed it off like nothing ever happened, everyone was left wondering what was really going on behind the scenes. Some believed DMX was just being slick, refusing to give Kurupt any more attention or publicity. Others thought it was a smart move, a way to shift focus away from the whispers that still linked him to the Echo Studio shooting. Maybe it was pure damage control, or maybe, just maybe, DMX was truly done with the drama. Nobody knew for sure, but his calm response only deepened the mystery. Meanwhile, Kurupt decided to keep things cool too. Even though Party Up was dominating every club, radio station, and movie shrine around the world, he didn't fire back with another diss. Instead, he flipped the script and focused on his own lane. On July 17, 2001, he dropped his album Space Boogie, Smoke Odyssey, and one track in particular, Just Don't Give a Fuck, caught people's attention. In that song, Kurupt hinted that he was finally ready to let the beef go. He sounded tired of the tension and made it clear that he wasn't trying to keep the feud alive. It was like he was saying, let's move on. But of course, hip-hop beefs never really stayed dead forever. Fast forward to August 23, 2005, when Kurupt released his next album, Against the Grain. One track, Speak On It, had fans talking again because it brought back a little bit of that old energy. In the song, Kurupt talked about how people kept comparing rappers like 50 Cent, Ja Rule, and DMX to Tupac, and he wasn't having it. He shut that all the way down, saying flat out there would never be another Tupac. Then, in a bold move, he called out DMX by name, saying he wasn't the new Tupac either.
Ain't no new Tupac. DMX ain't the new Tupac.
It wasn't a full-blown diss, but it definitely stirred up some old tension. Still, the feud never reignited the way it had before. Over time, both men went their separate ways, building their own legacies in hip-hop and surviving the kind of rivalry that could have easily turned deadly. Then, in 2017, nearly 20 years after it all began, fate stepped in with a twist. Kurupt and DMX unexpectedly crossed paths at an airport, and instead of hostility, there was nothing but mutual respect. According to Kurupt, the encounter was friendly. They shook hands, talked it out, and officially buried the hatchet for good. After decades of chaos, the two finally found peace. This story shows how wild and unpredictable hip-hop history can be. Two legends who once wanted smoke ended up finding common ground after all the madness. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of hip-hop's most underrated feuds, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment below. Let us know, who do you think really came out on top in the DMX versus Kurupt saga?